Yakini. Yeah, my country. This is my country. You know, we gotta do research, man. They've been hiding stuff from us. You know, we weren't properly educated through the school system. You know, you gotta take time to do that own research for yourself. And once again, I'm Yakini. This is the last firefighter. And I'm that indigenous abolitionist. You feel me? Trying to get all my people free. We ain't free, man. We still slaves in the mind, man. We still slaves in the mind. We need to wake up. People talking about they woke, but they don't even know what it is. Kenny, the indigenous abolitionist, my black and brown people fall up and fish and put it in the sky like this. If you're tired of the government, say fuck Democrat and Republican. Yeah, Kenny, the indigenous abolitionist, my black and brown people fall up and fish and put it in the sky like this. If you're tired of the government, say fuck Democrat and Republican. Yeah, Kenny, the indigenous abolitionist, my black and brown people fall up and fish and put it in the sky like this. If you're tired of the government, say fuck Democrat and Republican. Yeah, Kenny, the indigenous abolitionist, my black and brown people fall up your fist and put it in the sky like this. If you're tired of the government, say fuck Democrat and Republican. Welcome to Turtle Island, the holy land before white folks started wilding. Indigenous people was calling some of the Negroes. Columbus one of them heroes. White devil calling the seasons. Listen to say hello. Sizing up what they holding, trying to get their pockets rolling with coins and gold. And the same thing goes on today. Kids getting killed in the streets while you in the church and pray. Giving all that energy to the Vatican religion full of shit. If you wanna be a Illuminati, that means you just illuminated. Think you free by that emancipation program, but better do some research and some real education. Know the wars and everything that came before. Black still vote Democrat, but you still trap. Cupcats coming with the straps. 2020 African American got mental whips on their back. Nigga, Negro the black, claim the whole land, America, that's facts. American Negro in the world without a race, like a color that only you can trace. That's what they love us, but it's fake. You missed out the Black Panthers and wiped them out, but it's still the KKK going on today. And other groups breed hate, they create laws. They put us in our pride. Yakini, the indigenous abolitionist, my black and brown people fall up your face and put it in the sky like this. If you're tired of the government, say fuck Democrat and Republican. Yakini, the indigenous abolitionist, my black and brown people fall up your face and put it in the sky like this. If you're tired of the government, say fuck Democrat and Republican. No, we need to build our own party, you know what I'm saying? We need to come up with something, man. Right now. Tired of living like this. We out here, they just doing whatever they want to do because we ain't got nothing to claim. They say we need to claim something, own something, give something to our kids and our grandkids and our great-grandkids. And that's real. We about to get into this Thomas Sewell clip, and I will be back with my final commentary. And this was brought to you by All Booty Matters.
As a native Black American and a proud member of the Muskogee Creek Nation, I understand the importance of tracing your lineage. Help me help you discover your roots with a personalized genealogy consultation. Paper trail genealogy matters. DNA tests can't prove ethnicity or tribal affiliation. You must search through paper records to dive deep into your family heritage. During the meeting, I will teach you how to navigate the genealogy process with ease. You'll learn how to link tribal affiliation with your ancestors, and I'll show you the step-by-step process I went through to gaining tribal citizenship. Take the first step to unlocking your past. To book a consultation, send an email to mike@keymediapro.com. The Equanushiani. So before we get into the family surnames, right now we're going to take a deep dive into the vast different number of Aboriginal American Indian tribes that were here. Meanwhile, they only want us to know about the 5 quote-unquote civilized tribes that got beaten to submission and sold out to the Europeans. But let's get into it.
And I'm glad they put it in alphabetical order. And as you guys can see, this is 800 pages. So it's no joke. Like, this is a lot of information. But yeah, thank you guys so much for subscribing. The channel is doing a lot better than before, and I really thank you guys so much for that. Thank you. So we're going through This is weird. I see Catawba. I did a video on Catawba in South Carolina. Oh, wow. This is so cool. Let me know if y'all see your tribes or know anything about any of this stuff. I see Cherokee. Oh, man. So, and then you got Cheskitaloa, the Seminoles, I guess. Man, this is a lot of information, y'all. Look. Man. Like I said, pause to read. You got a Copper tribe, Copper, so-called from their copper ornaments on Copperman River in the north. That is so cool. You even got Delaware. I remember them. Man, this is so cool. I'm sorry about that rant earlier, y'all, but man, look at this. This is our heritage, man. Stolen heritage, by the way, because they, like I said before, they don't teach this stuff, man. That's why when I find something like, man,
And this is why when I discuss Aboriginal history with another Black person that says they're Native, I don't ask them what tribe they're a part of. The first thing I ask them is if they've done their family's genealogy. If they say yes, then I ask them what tribe they're affiliated with. Then if I learn that they're affiliated with a tribe that is federally recognized, then I'll ask if they have citizenship. But God damn it, it would be improper. It would be in poor taste for me to run around asking people if they got Native citizenship when we have hundreds upon hundreds of Aboriginal tribes that never got recognized by the government. Hundreds of tribes that were just stripped from history, a paper genocide, if you will. So a lot of us running around saying our grandma told us we Native, for all we know, we descend from one of these tribes that were never recognized.
I'm going to share it, man, because this is knowledge is power, right? You know what I mean? Like, dang, freaking genealogy, man. You're trying to look for stuff. And then they're giving locations, man, like Calusa.
And look, it even has the numbers of the population of some of these. Come on, y'all. Illinois. I didn't know that there was a tribe literally called Illinois. I never thought to myself, why is Illinois called Illinois as a territory? There was a tribe called Illinois, the Lake of Men. It was 12,000 of them in 1670. They had 60 towns. Come on. The Kikatsa were on both sides of Yellowstone. Above the mouth of Bighorn, they had 3,500 tribal members in 1805. Damn, so much history washed away, strict from the record.
A tribe found early in Florida, long since extinct. You know, oh, you see how they be doing us? I bet you we still here from that same tribe, man. You gotta watch them. Watch how they be lying. Man. Alright. Man, this is so cool. Let me know if I'm going too fast, too slow. Like, I don't know. Because I want to do that roll call again for the names. So I had to get some books. So to make sure get some books. And I just want to address the thing when I was reading from that book from the last video. The last two videos, I believe. It was the roll call video. The author was using some words that we didn't like. We don't use on this platform. The nappy hair or the Negro or the black. But she was just showing what they labeled it as, kind of like with the dreadlocks. She wasn't saying like, yo, I use dreadlocks. At least that's what I interpreted from what I kept rereading. She was just letting us know, like, this is what they would call it. They would call it, kinky hair or nappy hair. And if you go back and listen to that video when I was reading the book, she did say that, hey, we are the...
Look at this, y'all. The Ozamis, one of the 6 tribes on the eastern shore of Maryland and Virginia. I never heard of that tribe before. They don't tell us about these tribes in school.
We are brown skinned people, reddish brown, chocolate brown. Like she knows the difference, who we are. She's just saying that's what we're labeled. We're labeled as Negro. We're labeled as black. And the people used to call our hair nappy or dreadlocks, but it's actually our natural, beautiful hair. And we have locks, not dreadlocks, because that's what the racists call dreadful. So she was just letting everybody know, like, yo, this is, if you've heard that term before, this is what the racists use. But I don't think she meant it and stuff. But when I see words like that, I won't read it anymore. If I see the word black, I'm gonna change it to autochthonous or indigenous or original, something like that. So, because I know I didn't read the word dreadlocks, I only read the word locks. So I caught that one, but I didn't catch the one like the nappy hair, because I was so excited to learn about the anisazis and like a new word. I've never heard of that before, that I was able to read about it, you know. So I apologize, and I'll make sure. And then I know the one with the presidents and stuff. Yeah, I didn't know who those people were, like their names. I saw the pictures, but I didn't know their names. Kind of like with Frederick Douglass and stuff like that, and Abraham.
Yeah, shout out to actress Ronnie Davis. Says, I'm black from Omaha, Nebraska. My grandmother had photos of her mother and her mother that were full-blooded natives. Yep. Let's talk about it, y'all. Let's talk about it. Matter of fact, I did a broadcast not too long ago. Let me show you guys where to go find that. I did a broadcast not too long ago exposing the fact that Mildred Loving was not an African-American woman at all. She was a full-blooded Native American. Loving versus Virginia, hidden Black Native American history.
Go this far with me on this journey down this rabbit hole we going. I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. It's Mecca God. Hit that like, subscribe, share it to your friends. I ain't got all of that fancy stuff and click and bells and all that, but you know what to do. You know what to do. We in part 2 of Tracing Your Roots. We about to get into Mike TV. Shout out to Mike TV, the king of receipts. Let's go.
Cultural differences among blacks have long been extreme, ranging from such things as urbanization, education, and regional distribution, to rates of crime, economic achievement, and general acculturation to the norms of the surrounding society. Historically, the most fundamental difference for many generations was between those blacks who were slaves and those who were free. They differed not only in their legal status, but also in their regional distribution, their degree of urbanization, and even biologically. There were free blacks as far back as the 17th century. In fact, there were free blacks before there were slaves in America. The first Africans brought in captivity to colonial Virginia in 1619 became indentured servants, like the white indentured servants who were common in colonial America. Only later, with the mass importation of Africans, did this change. The first law in America recognizing perpetual slavery appeared in 1661 in Virginia. The small class of free blacks in colonial America had fewer restrictions than other free blacks would have in the 19th century, and many of them and their descendants made use of their opportunities. There was a black writer named Gustavus Vassa, whose book was popular enough to go through 8 editions at a time when the vast majority of blacks were still illiterate slaves in the South. Benjamin Banneker was a publisher of almanacs and was also one of those who designed the layout of the city of Washington. Again, long before most blacks were either free or able to read and write. There were not just isolated individual blacks who were culturally more advanced than other blacks, but whole classes of blacks who had achieved cultural levels that most blacks would not achieve until many generations later. The size of the free black population increased after the United States came into existence as an independent nation, as the ideology of freedom associated with the American Revolution led most northern states to abolish slavery, and even in the South, enough white slave owners freed their slaves to cause the free black population there to nearly double and then redouble between 1790 and 1810. Both the regional distribution and the degree of urbanization of free and enslaved blacks differed greatly. After the invention of the cotton gin in 1793, the cotton plantations of the Deep South began to draw slaves away from upper South states like Virginia and North Carolina, toward more southerly states like Mississippi and Alabama, sometimes as individuals sold down the river and often as part of whole plantations that relocated. Thus, the geographic center of the black population moved steadily southwestward at an average of about 50 miles per decade. Meanwhile, the free persons of color were moving in the directly opposite direction. While more than 90% of the antebellum black population lived in the South, the free persons of color were evenly divided between the states of the North and South, and within the South, they tended to leave the Deep South and gravitate toward that region's less oppressive places farther north. The difference in geographic distribution was so extreme that in 1860 there were more free blacks living in the city of Washington alone than in the states of Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia combined, these states having huge concentrations of slaves. The slave and the free also differed greatly in urbanization. While most black slaves worked in rural settings, by 1860 the free persons of color were more urbanized than even the white population. There were cultural consequences to these historic and geographic differences. While the vast majority of slaves could neither read nor write, the census of 1850 showed that most free persons of color were literate. But it would be half a century later, 2 generations after emancipation, before the same would be true of the black population as a whole. It would be 1940 before the black population as a whole became as urbanized as the free persons of color were in 1850. The cultural head starts of this segment of the black population had enduring consequences. The descendants of the antebellum free persons of color remained predominant among black leaders in many fields, well into the 20th century, and they included W.E.B. Du Bois, Thomas Fortune, Charles Waddell Chestnut, Thurgood Marshall, John Hope Franklin, and many others. Most black holders of doctoral degrees in the middle of the 20th century, as well as most Negroes working in the professions in the nation's capital at that time, were by all indications descendants of the antebellum free persons of color, a group that was never more than 14% of the black population. As a group, the free persons of color also differed from the slaves in racial mixture. As in most of the Western Hemisphere, freed slaves were often the offspring of those who freed them, and the adults freed were more often female than male. While only 8% of slaves met the stringent U.S. Census requirement of half or more white ancestry to be classified as mulatto, 37% of the free persons of color did. This is not to say that all the others in either category were of pure African ancestry, but there were very noticeable skin color differences between the more acculturated descendants of those freed before the Civil War and those freed as a result of the Emancipation Proclamation. The noticeably greater success of the former was often attributed to their white ancestry, both by whites and by some of the Negro elite themselves. But the historical and cultural antecedents of that success are undeniable. Moreover, the later rise of other blacks to similar levels of achievement undermines the biological explanation of these internal differences among blacks. The point here is that cultural differences led to striking socioeconomic differences among blacks, as they did among whites. In both races, those who lived within the redneck culture lagged far behind those who did not. That these cultural differences among blacks also coincided with biological differences did not mean that biology explained the differences in performance. The offspring of white slave owners not only had a better chance of being freed, they also tended to have better opportunities while still enslaved, being more likely to be house servants rather than field hands, and, in some cases, living the lives of de facto free persons while still legally in bondage. Reconstruction-era black Senator Blanche K. Bruce, for example, was during the era of slavery tutored alongside his owner's son, or other son, as many Senator Blanche K. Bruce, for example, was during the era of slavery tutored alongside his owner's son, or other son, as many believed. During the antebellum era, there were other mulatto offspring of white slave owners who were given special consideration and aid. Some were sent to Oberlin College, sometimes with an intermediary handling financial arrangements, apparently to conceal the identity of the white father. This is not to say that most slave owners freed their mulatto offspring, but that, of those blacks freed voluntarily, mulattoes were far more common than among the slave population in general, and that women were freed more often than men. Moreover, this pattern prevailed throughout the Western Hemisphere. The point here is that the descendants of free persons of color had a cultural history that served them better than the cultural history of the descendants of slaves, even after the abolition of slavery ended differences in their legal status. Whether by individual escapes from slavery, by voluntary manumissions in the antebellum South, or by general emancipation by law in the northern states, a black class of free persons of color emerged long before the Emancipation Proclamation. The more prosperous of these families were able to educate their own children, sometimes through college, and these were typically lighter-skinned people, as well as people with generations of a head start in freedom and acculturation, as compared to the mass of enslaved blacks. The net result was that the elite among American Negroes tended to be, and to remain for generations after emancipation, a racially mixed group that married among themselves and formed a socially exclusive class. Among 19th century Negroes in Philadelphia, for example, 85% of mulatto men married mulatto women, and 93% of black men married black women. This was not solely a matter of color prejudice, for there were major behavioral differences between the two groups. The mulatto neighborhoods had lower crime rates and a higher percentage of their children attending school, as compared to the black neighborhoods, even though it can hardly be claimed that school attendance or crime rates are genetically predetermined. In short, there were major cultural differences, and these differences in turn produced other differences, such as a higher occupational status, better housing, and more wealth among the mulattoes. Nor was this pattern confined to Philadelphia. All across the country, North and South, the elite of the Negro community were lighter in complexion than the masses, and very self-conscious and sometimes snobbish about that fact. This remained so through at least the first half of the 20th century. Among the consequences of the extreme range of education and acculturation within the Negro community has been the larger society's erection of racial barriers provoked by black rednecks, which barriers then deeply offended those individuals at the other end of the cultural spectrum. These barriers, based on race, prevented cultural elites from separating themselves as much as they would like from lower-class blacks, with whom they were forced to live in proximity and to share institutions. Yet, protests against racial barriers had to be made in the name of all, light or dark, leading to charges of hypocrisy against the elites who spearheaded protests against white social and economic barriers, while maintaining their own social and economic barriers against the black lower class. That internal social barriers within the black community became more pronounced at the same time as white barriers against blacks in general suggests that more than coincidence was involved, since both occurred in the wake of the mass arrival of black rednecks from the South. Among the behavioral differences between the black elites and the black masses was that the elites had more stable families, with separation or divorce being rare among them. It took more than money or a light complexion to enter the social circles of the black elite. Behavioral standards were also essential, and individuals who met these standards could be admitted with little money and regardless of complexion, though the history of black rednecks meant that few would rise to elite levels.
Let's be real, y'all. We all slaves. You slave to something. You slave to money. You slave to your job. You slave to your children. You slave to your parents. You slave to your religion. You slave to money. You slave to your girl or your boyfriend, or you slave to sex. You slave to something. First thing, our homework lesson of the day. Turn into your Bible, first page, chapter 1, verse 20. You will see that it said it was made in our image. Like I said, a movie that changed my life, Killer and the Bee. You got to break down these words. What is our? It's not singular. It's what? Plural. That means more than one. So it's more than one God that created you. And we're going to get in this story of Genesis one day on this episodes. But right now, we're doing tracing your roots. So that's first homework assignment. Second homework assignment is that since the times of the Bible, if you want to believe it or not, or if you're religious, spiritual, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, whatever. Slavery was from the Bible time all the way to the 19th century in America, 1865. But it continues to go around the world, and it's really going on right now in Africa in 2024, but ain't nobody talking about it. And part two of slavery, since it's been going on since biblical times to Bible times to now. Why you can't find me a picture of slavery, slave auction, slave ship? Why is it all drawings? And in that clip that we just seen on Mike TV, it's a whole bunch of tribes out here that wasn't recognized federally. And I want you to go look up the wars that was in between 1776 and the Civil War. It was multiple wars fought with indigenous people, and indigenous people got the short end of the stick because other people was working with the colonialists to help keep you down and keep you in that position so they could get rich and live a pretend life. And that's what we got going on with Kama cosplaying Chameleon. Shout out to Pink Book Lessons. Number 3, when you tracing your roots and you doing your genealogy, you're gonna get to 1890. 1890, you're not gonna find no records because that's when they had officially put this thing on lockdown. Now your people is indigenous to this land, and they started off on the little strip, the little corner coast that they had on the American Atlantic coast, on the flatland beyond the Piedmont, where it was the worst land in America. If you go up the Atlantic coast, it's the worst beaches. It's mosquito infested. It's the lowlands. It was trash, so they had to venture out. And then on top of that, you got to go back to the 1600s when it first really started going down, and they start kicking the people out of Europe, and they had to come over here and be indentured servants, which is white slavery at that time, indentured servitude, and they had to work whatever their time was, and when they got done, they could have the American dream. And then you have free colored people out here that was either indigenous or they was royalty in some kind of way, or they was European blacks that had aristocratic ties or something along that line, or they was in indentured servitude and they worked their way out of it, or they was in slavery and they paid their way out of it because some people could pay their way out of slavery, or they was in slavery and they master gave them their freedom. Either way it go, it was going down. Hold on, y'all. I got this phone call. I'll be right back to sum up the conclusion. What up with you, man?
What's up, bro?
Are you live?
Yeah, nigga, I got home, nigga. I sat down, nigga, and I was gone, bro.
Hell yeah. Shit,
I was out of there, nigga, last night. I done wake up till 11:30, nigga.
I'm wrapping up the show. You live on the show. You want to say anything to end this motherfucker?
I said I'm live on the show.
Yeah, I'll just record the last clip and shit. I'm about to hit finish and light this blood.
Nah, nigga, well, shit. Since I'm on the show, nigga, what we talking about?
Shit, I'm talking about motherfucker how history was told fucked up, and can't nobody tell me slavery was real because it's only cartoon drawings, and I just did videos of the tribes that weren't federally recognized by the United States government, and talk about the Gullah Wars and shit they don't talk about in the motherfucking wars and shit, Gullah Wars, when they was fighting black niggas.
Nah, real shit. Like, I know one thing I want to say. I'm tired of niggas talking about reparations. Let's stop it, black folks.
was
talking
touching.
about reparations.
Yeah, we was touching on that.
Shit,
I
we
did
freed the
say
slaves.
so.
Them niggas wasn't asking for handouts. Them niggas was gone.
I did say something about that.
Um,
Niggas would be wrong if they find out that they had to give reparations to their white people that descended from indentured
hell yeah.
servitude.
They gonna be mad if you gotta give. Nah, they gonna be mad if they gotta pay reparations to Karen. They'll be so mad.
Like, yeah,
Karen,
I got.
Karen be those. Karen fuck around people. I'm fucking African side. You be really hurt.
Hey, was it that wrestler woman, Ronda Rousey? Ain't like her great granddaddy black or some shit like that?
Yeah.
Was she?
That shit crazy.
Was she qualify for resurrection? Was she qualify for resurrection?
Shit, nigga, you be mad. All these nigga, please, you be broken in. You be broken in what you is now, paying these motherfuckers off.
Hell yeah.
You know, I mean, I was laughing at my girl mama, right? She believed if Trump become president, you know, like we don't go back in slavery, like literally change this shit. I said, Rose, I said, well, damn. I said, why we wasn't slaves when that nigga was in office first time?
Hell yeah, like nigga.
I said, what you mean? Can you imagine that? To take some niggas down and put them in chains today?
Hell yeah, that shit would be too funny, nigga. I wanna, nigga. Nah. It's different kind of white people. They don't have that. They don't have that kind of hatred.
Better get up out of here with that bullshit. Ain't nobody gonna be a motherfucking slave. Nobody. Not in 2024, 2025. Hell, I'm at a point like, nigga, if next slave movie come out, my nigga, I'm losing my shit.
Hey, in America, it ain't no slaves, but I was just talking about in Africa, it's slaves right now, and ain't nobody talking about it. It's children slaves. They out there in the coal tan mines. They out there sex trafficking in them Africans. I be watching their movies and TV shows and all that. That's it.
But they got a whole different dynamic going on out there.
That's not. I'm not African American.
I mean, well, one thing, you got a lot of people still thinking they got some kind of, trace back way over there. Like, people ain't believing that it was black folks here before, the slave trade and all that shit. We was everywhere, you know what I mean?
Hell yeah.
We was everywhere. So for them to be sitting here like, oh, yeah, this back to Africa shit. Man, Africans don't want your black ass over there, not from America.
Hell no, because they
don't want
surely.
you over there shit. We don't even like them over here. What you mean?
They don't like us over here, so what made you think
Right,
they don't
like us over here. They get more shit than we get. So we talk about the wrong shit. You know what I mean?
And that's the thing I'm gonna bring up in one of these episodes. How come everybody benefited and coming up off of shit that we ain't never came up off of? Ain't the civil rights bill was supposed to be for us?
Man.
Now the Palestinians.
I ran into a Kamala voter today right at work. Let me give you the backstory. So she's 19. She a Latina, right?
Yeah.
And she was like, we was talking and shit. And she brought up, politics. And I was like, well, who you voting for? She was like, I'm voting for Kamala. And I was shocked because I'm like, man, you're 19 and a single mom. I'm like, all right, so let me ask you. I'm like, so what is it that you love her about so much? The first thing she went to was abortion. I'm thinking she was going to talk about the immigration shit. First thing she was like, first it was abortion, and she was like, he racist. And I was like, all right, well, all right, so what was your favorite thing about, Kamala that she did as VP? And she was like, just get my whole question. It was just like, they try to take away women's rights. I was like, well, what right don't you have that I got right now? She got quiet again.
That's a crazy
thing. Well, you should know. I'm like, how? How should I know? Well, because I'm black, since I'm kind of racial right now.
That's what it's saying. Like, niggas supposed to be automatically know the struggle. Niggas automatically supposed to be down with they upliftment and they cause and shit. And we ain't got, nigga, they ain't on the front lines with us. Nigga, we still ain't got shit.
She had a homegirl with her, right? She had a homegirl with her. And she was like, oh, yeah, can I get, hold on real quick, bro.
Yeah.
Hold on real quick, bro.